It's episode 7. This week we review What Little Girls Are Made Of. That was the name of the episode. It was a very strange episode, very bizarre. Basically, the Enterprise goes to this planet to find Roger Corby, who was some sort of brilliant scientist that was required reading in the academy and was well known. He happened to be engaged to Nurse Chapel, apparently. But he disappeared. They couldn't find him. Two other expeditions had not found him. Then all of a sudden they're getting messages from Roger Corby when they were about to give up and move on. Christine was all kind of ecstatic. But then he asked Captain Kirk to come down alone. Captain Kirk thought that was bizarre, but he said he was going to bring down Christine Chapel. He said, sure, why not? But then when they get there, there's no Roger Corby around, so they beam down a security party, and they make their way down to this long set of underground caves and tunnels. They find Roger Corby's assistant. Then they hear this scream. Apparently, one of the security guards had fallen down a bottomless pit. The assistant was like, yeah, he's dead. Forget it. Too bad. Captain Kirk's like, but what if? And he's like, nope. And he's like, but maybe. He's like, nope. Dead. Gone. Let's go. And then this big monster was seen hiding right behind them. Big, huge monster. Then he killed the other security guard. Just mauled him to death. And it turns out, once they got to Roger Corby and they were talking to Roger Corby, it wasn't like people they were dealing with. It was androids. There's a bunch of androids. Apparently, the people that had lived on that planet moved underground, developed highly sophisticated androids, and the androids took over, killed all the people. And then forgot. They forgot that happened. And then Roger Corby discovered the machines and the androids working on the machines. Turned himself into an android. He was really an android, even though he thought it was Roger Corby. And he turned Captain Kirk into an android. But Captain Kirk used his Kirk logic and kept saying like inappropriate things about Mr. Spock, so the android would repeat that for no reason. It made no sense, but that's what happened. The android Captain Kirk went to the ship. Captain Kirk went to his quarters. Mr. Spock chased him down. The android said the inappropriate things. Mr. Spock was like, oh, okay, sure. Then as soon as the android left, he called for security detail to follow the captain down there. Then a bunch of stuff went down, and the androids started killing each other because they were all confused over the real Captain Kirk, because he confuses computers. That's what he does. It's his main way of getting out of trouble. Confuse the computers. So all the androids end up getting shot by phaser fire. After all of that, minutes and minutes had gone by, and then Mr. Spock finally gets to the captain. And everything's fine. Then they do their little comedy ending with Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. Or Mr. Spock was basically like, yeah, I didn't appreciate the inappropriate comments. And Captain Kirk's like, I'll remember that the next time a bunch of androids had me held captive underground on a frozen tundra of a planet. And they laughed. That was basically it. That was what was going down. Interesting notes. There was no Dr. McCoy, no Mr. Scott, no Mr. Sulu. None of them were there. Half the regulars were not there. Christine Chapel had by far her biggest role on the show in this episode. By far. All kinds of Christine Chapel in this episode. She was there way more than anyone other than Captain Kirk, I would think. And possibly some of the androids, who weren't really there, but were sort of there, but they were androids. Also, when Christine finds out her long-lost fiancé was alive, and she's going down to the planet to meet him, she heads to the elevator. Uhura comes up, hugs her, kisses her right on the mouth, thus breaking the myth that Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura had the first interracial kiss in television history, let alone Star Trek history. It was right there for the world to see. Lieutenant Uhura and Christine Chapel. Tons of episodes before it. tons of episodes before it. Nobody mentions it. It was kind of a throwaway little scene, but it happened. It sure did. Also, they had no mention of where Dr. McCoy was, or Mr. Scott, or Mr. Sulu. They just were gone. Nowhere to be found at all. Despite the fact that Dr. McCoy's head nurse was going down to that dangerous planet to look for her fiance. He usually would have an opinion on that, but he didn't this time because he wasn't there. It was very bizarre. 2 security officers died in the episode. Barely a mention of them after it happened. There was a, oh well, they're gone. Nothing to see here on this frozen tundra of a planet with these androids. Well, pretty much that was what little girls are made of.